I'm busy getting ready for a long trip, which is so exciting. We're off to Australia and I want to take a sketchbook with me and a few art materials. And I am spoilt for choice with sketchbooks because I like a sketchbook, I cannot lie, and I have a fine old collection. So I was really excited when the lovely people at Etchr sent me an A5 sketchbook, watercolour sketchbook, and I thought, oh, perhaps that's what I should take. So I want to do a review of this. I haven't actually opened it out of its envelope, and I want to see what it's like and work out whether this is a sketchbook I should be taking on my holiday. But just before I do that, I wanted to show you the sort of things I do so you know what I'm actually looking for. Let me put these to one side. So this is a homemade sketchbook that I took, 2019, before COVID, to Italy. And it's a concertina sketchbook that I made just with, it's got cartridge paper in. If you're American, you don't use that word. So I did all these sketches actually in pretty much, I think it was one day. I spent the whole day sketching in Orvieto. So each of them is sort of half an hour, 20 minutes, I don't know, not very long. Just exploring lots of different sort of sketching styles. Oh, actually, that was where we were staying. That was the view from the terrace, which was fun. And I do like concertina sketchbooks, but the issue is if you were trying to sketch in a windy condition or anything, it can sort of run away with you. So this is a commercial concertina sketchbook from Sea Whites. And again, it's just got drawing paper in, which is a kind of man enough. Oh, that's quite nice because I managed to do it across 3 pages there. This was down in Sidmouth. This is just local to me, local pub, this sort of thing. Oh, that was, gosh, in Tenerife, I think. And then this was Sidmouth as well. So that's the sort of stuff I do, and it's enough for a light wash, very smooth paper, so it's fine for those sorts of quick sketches. What I do like is that it has a hard case to protect it. I'll show you why I need a hard case. Look at this one, all gaffer taped together. This is another Sea White sketchbook, and this is very much a working book, so there are some proper, well, what I call proper sketches. We were in Crete, but there are also doodles and ideas, so it's, you know, it really varies between sketches of places that were a bit more finished and sort of just general ideas, and my kids got hold of it, so there you go. I was trying to show them how to draw faces. Don't think that really worked, did it? Bless them. And again, this sketchbook is okay enough to take a bit of a light wash. You can see it's sort of coming through the paper, so if you're doing a proper watercolour, that would not be kind of up to it really. So the sketchbook I've got on the go at the moment is actually this little Moleskine. It's sort of A5 size. It's not a watercolour book, but it can just take a bit of wash. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you might recognise some of these pictures because I've been doing some speed sketching and so forth. Ooh, and I was getting ready for our trip. The lovely people at Etchr said, would I like to look at their sketchbook? And of course the answer is yes, please. It comes in this sort of protective envelope, which when I saw it I thought, oh, that's over packaging, and then I opened it and I realised it's a white cover. Now, you saw that gaffer taped cover hard on my sketchbooks, so when I saw this white cover, well, I'm a bit nervous. So that envelope now makes sense. And if I take this on my trip, I will be putting it in there. Have a quick look. So it's got a band to keep it shut, which I love. It's got a fabric cover, which when I kind of looked it up online, you can actually paint this cover, which is rather lovely. It's got a nice little llama embroidered, so it feels yummy. Ooh. It's got really nice thick paper. This is just first impressions, so I'll look up the technicalities of that. We've got a little bookmark. Looks like getting it to lie flat is going to be an effort, especially that first page where it's glued. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, it will lie flat, I'm sure. And good. It has got a lovely pocket in the back, which is terribly useful. Oh, there's something in there. Ah. Oh, good. That gives me the specifics, so I don't even need to look those up. Right, so this is an A5 sketchbook, cotton fabric cover, mixed media heavyweight paper. Right, this is what I need. 230 GSM, so that's, well, 140 is 300, so that must be about 120-ish. 100% cotton, so it's a cold press surface, which to Brits we call that knot. Both sides can be used for painting, yippee, and it's ideal for pen, ink, watercolour and gouache, acid free. I have looked up the price, and in the UK you can get Etchr products through Jackson's. So in the UK it is £23.50, which is an awful lot of money for a sketchbook, I have to say. It's got 52 pages, and I'll probably use 2 because I tend to work across the fold, as you saw. I always work with it flat. So that would be 26. Will that be enough for a trip? See how my ink pens go on that before I decide finally. What I thought might be helpful is to do a side-by-side comparison with that little Moleskine book I'm currently using and then the Etchr book, and then I'll do some work in this to see how it responds to the way I anticipate sketching while I'm on my holidays. This little Moleskine is actually tiny bit smaller than the Etchr book. The Etchr book is proper A5 and the Moleskine is a centimetre smaller. This Moleskine A5 portrait book, full price is £24.99, so actually a little bit more expensive than the Etchr book, but on Amazon at the moment £14.54 was the cheapest I saw it, so obviously big discounts there. This has 104 pages. This has 52. I think if we open it up, you can hopefully, let's put those side by side, see what a different colour the paper is. This is really yellow. This isn't their watercolour sketchbook, the Moleskine one. I don't have that. This is just a sketchbook. So I'm not comparing like with like, but it's what I've got and what I'm using. So this paper is a lot thinner. This is 165, whereas this is 230. If I show you on the back, you can see there's some cockling where I've used water, but there's no bleed through, and I do use the backs of all pages. So, you know, that's not an issue as such. They both have that lovely band for keeping things shut. Fantastic. They both have a little bookmark, and they both have, just to show you, that handy little pocket at the back. What I will do if I take it is put some kitchen towel in the back, because I always forget to take kitchen towel with me and end up just wiping my paintbrush on the leg of whatever I'm wearing at the time. So that might save me. I couldn't find any information about the constituents of this paper. only that it was acid free. This is 100% cotton and vegan friendly, so if that's important to you, that's good to know. Far smoother. It hasn't got an awful lot of texture to it, but it's got a bit more. So if you were really into sort of fine line drawing and really detailed sketching, that texture might interfere with your pen work, but would be lovely for watercolour because it would bring something to it. But my style is not highly detailed, so I don't think that would be any issue. The thread bound, both can open flat. This has obviously got that black cover, which for a mucky pup like me might be better, but maybe I'll paint this. Maybe I'll just splosh some colour on and then even wax it with some Dorland's wax to protect it. I don't know. What's important is actually to try it out. The first page of a brand new sketchbook, especially if it is quite an expensive one, can be really intimidating. But what I quite like to do, just as a warm-up and to get over that, is to actually sketch some of my sketching materials. So here's a tiny little, it's a Sennelier watercolour set. You know, putting a pen and making a little composition or something like that, and then to sketch that here is a really nice way to break the back of a new sketchbook. The three pens that I tend to use a lot while I'm out sort of sketching or travelling are standard fine liners, the Stabilo 88, and a fountain pen with whatever ink I fancy. And this has got platinum carbon in it at the moment. So I think I will draw each of those pens in the pen to see how it works on this paper. Start by doing that little Stabilo. And the reason I like these Stabilo pens is that the ink moves with water, so that you can get the line and the wash all in one pen. So you go out with a water brush, a pen, a book, that's it. And you can actually do an awful lot with that. Right, let's grab a brush, grab some clean water and see. Oh yes, see, look, the ink does move. And you can just do a bit of tone as well as the line with that one pen. So that's lovely, actually. That moves really well on the paper. If you want to just get the ink rather than some line, scribble on something that is non-absorbent, so something plastic or metal, then use your brush and you can then actually pick up the ink to paint a little more densely without putting a line down. It's just a really nice way of using that pen. Bung a little bit of orange just so that you can remember that's the orange stripy pen. Yeah, that all feels really good. If you want to go over any areas that you've washed, obviously you just need to make sure that it's dry before you do that, otherwise the pen won't go. Give it a little shadow though, just a little one. Yeah, you put watercolour over the top and away you go. Fine liners are absolutely ubiquitous. I'm sure you've used those. So let's see how they go on here. And I'll do some continuous line because actually when I'm out sketching on the whole, I tend to do fairly continuous line. To get a straight line on these pens, or relatively straight line, I'm sort of running my little finger along the edge of the paper and it just helps guide, just in case you were wondering what I was doing there. It's actually quite smooth because I was slightly concerned that the texture would interfere with the pen work, but so far so good. And then we'll come down, let's just again put some continuous line to show the little highlights of it. Let's bung in a little what's that, 0.8. Writing on your side is quite strange. And we'll put, where are we? Uni pin, this one. I don't have a favourite sort of brand of fine liners. I find they all pretty much of a much. I mean, the real cheapy ones can run out pretty soon. That's a bit wonky, isn't it? Let's just expand that. Bung a little bit of that's too much. It's going to bung a bit of shadow alongside. As a test, why don't we see how we can blend it out? So can I smooth and soften that edge? Because I've done it very harsh. Yeah, seems to be able to blend out just as you would expect on a decent quality watercolour paper. Carbon, say platinum carbon ink in here. This is just a really cheap pen. It's a $717i pen. It's a fountain pen and it's a piston one, so you fill the whole of the barrel, but they only cost, well, I got 10 for £7.99, so 80p. The texture of the paper doesn't seem to be interfering with the mark. It's there, but it's not so there that you would worry about it. And it will certainly help when you're putting watercolour on. So I'm perfectly happy with that. There we go. Doesn't need any more than that. Let's on a tiny bit of blue. The ink wasn't dry, which is why it's bleeding. Don't I, just to make this a pleasing composition, find a couple more pens that I can put into here. Actually, the Elegant Writer might be a fun one to do. I don't know if you've come across the Elegant Writer. It's unfortunately got quite a thick nib. This is actually fine because it is a writing pen. But what happens when you put water on it is that it splits into turquoise and sort of blue. So it gives you all sorts of interesting marks. I'll show you in a moment. So let's use, there we go, some water on it. Can you see how that ink just zooms out? We'll put a little shadow in there. We'll put the shadow along the side here. If you could grab a piece of kitchen towel and then dab away some of the water, the pink comes to the fore, whereas the turquoise seems to lift up more. So you get pink and turquoise out of one pen, which of course is brilliant fun. I'll just turn it round so that I can do slightly better writing. I just don't think I could do that on the side. So I've just realised I stopped filming and I looked at this fountain pen that I did and I thought, that ink just doesn't look dark enough to be platinum carbon ink that I'd said that I'd used. And then I realised I'd totally picked up the wrong pen. That's just ordinary fountain pen ink. No wonder it ran when I did that. I thought I'd just left it wet. This is my pen with platinum carbon ink in. So just as a comparison, just do a very quick little pencil sharpener at the bottom. Oh, look at the difference in the colour. I say what the one that I used actually was Quink ink, just ordinary fountain pen ink, and this platinum carbon ink is just a different quality. It's gorgeous, and I was like, why is this different? Let's just put one little screw in there. Let's say just make sure that's dry and then put a tiny bit of watercolour over the top. And one thing I'd say, when you're starting to use a new paper, do check that your pens are actually waterproof on it. The thing is, I'm just going to put a little, there I can see some rust, I'm going to put some orange there, that different pens are different waterproofnesses, if that's such a word, on different papers. I think it's just different papers are kind of grippier. And if you're not careful, you'll assume that it's going to be waterproof and then it might move, or you'll assume it'll move and it might be waterproof. So always worth just doing a test with your pen and ink combination. I've broken the back of the sketchbook. Won't be frightened of using it now. So if you're looking for a subject, just sketch your materials to see what they do. It's a really nice opener to a sketchbook. Checking, it hasn't come through. I could absolutely use the back of this. Didn't use much water, as you saw, so but I can see no sign of cockling. If I hold it up like that to the light, I can see a little bit of the drawing coming through, but as soon as it's flat, that's not a problem. It feels really nice. I like the texture. The texture isn't interfering with the pen work, isn't making my fountain pens, even these really cheap fountain pens, they don't feel scratchy. So I think this has earned its place in my rucksack. I will really look forward to using it. And hopefully when I get back from my big travels, I'll be able to show you some of the sketches I've done and seen how that binding really holds up to what's going to be some quite rough treatment. I'm not prissy with my art materials. They are there to work hard for me.